Hey everyone, Felice Gerwitz here, and I want to share with you something that is dear to my heart, and that is saving you money. Can you use encouragement for your homeschool journey? Have you been searching for an online learning program designed to ground your family in a Christian worldview? Well, now you can at MediaAngelsMembership.com. Our affordable membership packages fit your budget and busy life. Now you can access customized membership packages for your homeschooling family from the extensive Media Angels library of books, classes, and Bible studies. You may select the ebook bundle, the creation bundle, the premium bundle, or the forever bundle. Each bundled set will save you vast amounts of money. Our packages begin at less than $10, and you can use it for the whole family. So go to MediaAngelsMembership.com for more information. That's MediaAngelsMembership.com. You'll be glad you did.
This is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network. Welcome to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Your host, Felice Gerwitz, is an author, a publisher, and your radio show host. She will encourage, educate, and inspire you with answers to your most pressing questions from homeschool, marriage, parenting, and much more. Felice loves to equip moms to live a Christian life because every moment counts. Be sure to visit her website at MediaAngels.com. And here's your host, Felice Gerwitz.
Hey everyone, and welcome. This is Felice Gerwitz with Meredith Curtis on the line, and today we are going to talk about graduations on the cheap. This is podcast 196, and you can find the show notes at vintagehomeschoolmoms.com. Look for podcast 196. Well, welcome, Meredith.
Hi, Felice. Thank you for having me. It's such an exciting time of year. There's so many graduations, and I'm sure, like me, you've been invited to several, and my favorite are the homeschool graduations because, of course, they bring back so many good memories. And so I'm excited to talk about doing it as cheaply as possible and having as much fun as you can.
Oh, I'm excited as well. All right, well, today we have a list of things that we're going to talk about, and they're not in any particular order. Usually we have our bullet points here. So we're just going to start sharing some of the things that have worked, and we're going to hit not only the location, but the food, decorations, which is something I love to do with I don't like decorating houses, but I like party decorations. I don't think I'm very good at decorating a home. I always have to have help for that. I'm good with the food. The decorations are really fun for me. And then we're going to talk about some like the personal touches that you can add. So usually when we look at a graduation, sometimes if you're involved with a church or a support group, they tend to host a larger graduation at a facility. So, Meredith, you've had them at churches, and then afterwards we go to the park, and we've done the same thing. So share a little bit about that. How is that decision made? And is it just something that you can do easily? It probably is easier with a group of people.
Well, yes. In fact, we have been involved in homeschool co-ops, and last year, our church homeschool co-op had their first graduation. So Jimmy he wanted to graduate with the homeschool co-op that he had been involved, all his siblings had graduated from, which was Grace Homeschoolers. And then our church had its first graduation, and we had 6 graduates, so that was really exciting. But this is kind of how everything went. We were involved in Grace Homeschoolers for all 5 of my children graduating. And they basically, the senior class would start getting together at the beginning of the school year, and they'd have planning meetings. And all the parents chipped in. It was, and that they chipped in and paid for the cake, the rental, and, any of the different things that we would need. But the children and their parents actually planned the entire graduation. So they would plan the colors they wanted for their gowns. They planned the motto they wanted. They planned what they wanted to serve, how they wanted to do it. And there were things set in place. You know, there was protocol set in place of a kind of pattern. It was really nice because it was formal in that there was a, you know, pomp and circumstance when you walk in, and then there was, the processional of the graduates, and we always had a slideshow of just a couple pictures of each graduate playing. And this was small. I mean, probably the biggest class that we ever had was 12. And so it wasn't like a huge thing where your child was nameless. And then there was, each child got to do a speech or a performance. So there was a ballet dance one year. There was a comedy routine. There were lots of amazing speeches, and there were a lot of songs. And so that was really neat. And there was a speaker. Well, we decided when we had ours that we would not have a graduation speaker. We would just have Mike, the pastor, talk about 5 minutes, and then each dad would give a charge to their graduate. So all the dads went up, and they gave a charge to their graduate, and then the dad handed the student the diploma, and the mom turned their tassel. And so it was really very, even though it was a group graduating, so that made it, really exciting and festive, it was still very, very personal, and emphasized the fact that it was the parents who had educated their children, and they were the ones giving the diploma. So we did fancy diplomas up on nice paper, and then there was a place for the parents to sign. And so anyway, it was really, really something special. And the kids chose a class verse. They chose a class motto. And, we did some of the fun things, like we had a junior senior banquet. And we just did a lot where the senior class felt very special. Even though it was just a tiny group, it was really like a festive year, and they made a lot of memories.
That's wonderful. And one of the things that we did as well was when we participated with a group, and this is my two oldest, and my other children are very interesting kids, so they were very, very cheap graduations, and I'll explain why in a minute. But so the children were part of, a co-op as well, and they did it also in a church, and then we went over to like at our church it's called the parish center, so whatever the little room is, it's outside of the church building. But when we went there, the kids all stood up, and they did like a 2 to 3 minute speech on basically thanking their parents. And It was really beautiful. And of course there were a lot of tears, but that's why they weren't that long. But it was really great because, that was, a public presentation of their thankfulness for being homeschooled, and it was wonderful. The three youngest, which Michael is going to be involved in that, although he doesn't graduate till next year formally. He's dual enrolled right now. But the three have said to me that they did not want to be involved in the larger graduations. And so that's why I say that they were very, very cheap. We just did a family party, and they played sports. So they had a huge sports banner that was hanging at the school. These things are ridiculous. They're almost the size of the child.
Wow.
And they look like a baseball card, but they're really big. In fact, I have a picture of Anne with hers and my dad. It's really, really cute. But we hung that up and had a party at home, and then I just sent out nice graduation cards, and then they were part of an umbrella school, and they got their graduation diploma. We went to that, and it was just basically a walking up and picking it up type of thing. So, right. And they've done a lot of different things, from it being very formal where they've had cap and gown, like you're saying, and that's what the oldest two did, to it being a lot more informal with my youngest three. But but we still, we still celebrate, and I think that's the key. It's whatever, like my children really didn't want to do a big thing, so I wanted to respect that, and they were funny. They said to me, well, which would you rather have, us from college, doing a college graduation, because they've heard of people who skip their college graduations, and get their diplomas mailed to them later, or a homeschool graduation. So I said, well, I just want you to be comfortable, with whatever you're doing. So that's what we did. But I think that's beautiful. I love the father giving the charge and the mother turning the tassel. I think that's really cool. And so then after that situation, and another thing too, with us being in Florida, I wanted to mention, we have a state organization, the FPEA, Florida Parent Educators Association, and they do a huge graduation.
Yes, yes, they do.
The kids can walk, and so that's something that you may want to look into and participate in. If your state has a graduation ceremony, I mean, it probably is 500 kids. Typical to a regular.
I think it's even bigger now. When Kate graduated in 2003, I think there were about 500 kids, and now I think it might be over 1,000. I'm not sure, but my older two graduated with FPA too, in addition to their homeschool co-op, and there was a lot of activities that FPA put on, and they really had a lot of fun. So it was a nice thing to be involved in, and Katie Beth actually was awarded a scholarship there, and so that was really special, and we have good memories from that. But and then the younger three did not opt to do it, which I was grateful for, because in the meantime the prices of where the convention was were going up, and so it was a little bit we would have had to
budget for a long time ago.
Yes. And so, and that's, speaking of budgeting, Felice, I think one thing, there are a lot of extra expenses if your child does want to do a traditional graduation. And if you kind of set aside about $25 to $50 a month, just kind of tuck it away. I don't know if you'll need all that, but that way the money is there. Some homeschool co-ops do yearbooks, and that's nice to get a yearbook. Ours did not. Our church homeschool group does not do one, but other schools do things like some people get a class ring, some people, almost everyone I know does senior pictures, and those are really nice. My daughter actually, Shine, she's taken several people's senior photos, and she takes them anywhere they want to go, and she just does an entire shoot. Usually it takes 4 hours, and then she gives and many times people change their clothes, into different outfits for it, and she gives then all the files to the parents, and they blow up and do whatever they want. And then another expense of senior year would be, or related to graduation, would be the announcement, like you said. And we always use the senior photo in the announcement. And I know that two of my friends who have children graduating, they just went to Sam's, and you can actually put your pictures in and get a nice
pictures in. Yeah, I did that.
Put in the
Costco.
date.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Really nice. So, and they came out
and
nice.
It's very inexpensive. Very inexpensive.
It is. Now, what Jimmy did is he has a board. Mike painted a portion of his wall with chalkboard paint, so he can write on that wall with chalk, and he designed this whole announcement thing on the board, which I was shocked, because he's my engineer. He's not really artsy, but he was so creative. And then he stood in front of it and got his picture, and then we just blew those up to 5x7s and sent them in the mail. So
cool.
that was really fun. So we've had, announcements are fun, and they're a nice way to let family members who live far away know what's going on. And so that's another.
I've done them on the computer before too. I know that sounds a little cheesy, but you can get really nice paper, and I'm good with that, the photo stuff. So did Nicholas's, and it came out really great. And I had Anne's done at Costco because we had a little bit more time with hers. And I look at them side by side, and there's just very little difference, to the eye. So, it does. If you get the nice paper, sometimes it ends up costing just as much. But so if you have more time, you can do that. Another one is Vistaprint. And Vistaprint, if you get on their mailing list, they send coupon codes all the time. And I purchase things there for 50% off, 25% off. So you can get really good deals. And at this time of the year, they usually have seasonal types of things. And so that's another place you can have things printed. Like you can have posters printed for, $20. So if you wanted to do a photo poster that could hang on the wall, like even vinyl or something that's laminated on a board, you can have those kinds of things printed, and they come out really nice. And you can have, buy the generic stuff. Okay, so let me back up because we're on location. So let's talk about the park location, and then I think we went down to decorations and party because that's what the stuff I like.
Okay. Sure.
But the park, we both were talking about it. We have a really nice park. It's called Lakes Park, and it's nearby. And you can rent pavilions for inexpensively. It depends on which one, and it's about $50 to could be several $100s. But we've done that, like an open pavilion that we had, and we shared it with the other graduates, like you were saying that you did it with 12 people. That year, there was just 2 of them that opted to do the party at the park. So one year, they shared a cake. So we had one of those huge cakes made, and half of it was happy graduation to, actually, they were both Christina's. My daughter was Christina, and this other girl's name was Christina, but they had different spellings of their names. And so they had, half a cake made for each of them. And then the next year there was another graduation we went to, and they each had their own cake. And then we just decorated the pavilion. So, those are things you can do, a lot of disposables, start adding up. But again, if you start budgeting for it, and then even if you start looking online, it really can be a savings. Like you can buy things in bulk that are very inexpensive and that are reusable. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Did you want to add anything to the park?
Yes, we did. We did one graduation in a park where we just had one graduate, and we had the ceremony in the park, and it was really nice. It was by a pretty lake, and it was just a really nice atmosphere, and it was very relaxed. And but we also we were talking about fixing up the park, and when we fixed up the reception hall for the graduation, what we did reception hall. I'm already to weddings. When we fixed up the fellowship hall for the graduation, we put linen tablecloths on because I'd had them from a wedding, which I don't recommend because then you have to wash everything after the wedding. My favorite are those plastic disposable, you just scoop everything up and throw it away. And to me, it's worth the extra money, and you can get any color you want. And then we made really simple centerpieces. We actually made them out of old books and tied burlap around them, and it was just a really cute little centerpiece. And then we put vase of flowers on each end. And then for the main table, we just let the food be the decoration. And again, we just used graduation colors for the tablecloths for the main table. And then another thing that we did is we let all of the graduates set up a card table with their own personal display just memories. A lot of them had picture boards. A lot of them used the report boards, that you put in a science fair, the trifold, and put up different things. Some of them had a book they really loved, or one guy loves basketball, so he had a display that was like a little basketball court, and then just things written on the court. It was really, really cute. And another girl made a tree, and she had little things hanging from the tree, pictures and stuff. And so it just kind of was a little spot for the kids to express their, memories and individuality. And then most of the kids put a piece of paper out where people could sign good wishes and things like that. And so it was a nice place.
They're not albums, but they're like the frame for a photo. They have those where you can sign them, and then you can put their photos in there. So it's great.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
They have like little Sharpies, and you can sign. I'm going to break in, Meredith, because we need to take a commercial break, because you and I can just keep talking and forget all about that.
Okay.
We'll be right back after this message. Thank you.
Powerline Productions wants to help you grow in your relationship with Jesus. Because of this, we offer a wide variety of books and ebooks about homeschooling, homeschool classes, and Bible study workshops like Real Men Build. Pastor Mike and Meredith Curtis, along with their daughter Katie Beth Curtis, have written this comprehensive Bible study to help men of all ages grow in leadership in the home, in the church, and in the world. Learn more at powerlineprod.com. That's POWERLINEPROD.com. Powerline Productions, being world changers, raising world changers.
Are you ready to start earning some money this week? Now there's a way to start making money while managing your business life. Discover the power of being your own boss and start a micro business. Micro businesses can be run from home, meaning little overhead and extreme convenience. Carol Topp, certified public accountant and founder of Micro Business for Teens, is the author of Fast Track, Starting a Micro Business. She has inspired hundreds of teens and adults to start a micro business through her Micro Business for Teens books, videos, and podcasts. This online course is available on sale for a limited time. You'll find book excerpts, videos, audios, and fill-in PDFs, all to help you start and run a successful micro business. Ready to get started? Visit fasttrack.microbusinessforteens.com. That's fasttrack.microbusinessforteens.com and begin your business today.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome back. This is Felice Gerwitz with Meredith Curtis, and today we're talking about graduations on the cheap. This is podcast 196, and you can find the show notes there on our page on Vintage Homeschool Moms. I also want to give a shout-out for Meredith's podcast, and that is the Finish Well podcast. Meredith, tell us a little bit about your podcast that airs once a month, but you've got a ton of archives people can go listen to. And it's the focus is on teenagers. So tell us about that, young adults.
Yes, it is. The focus is it's based on it's put on by the Finish Well Conference, which is for teens and parents who homeschool, and so all the talks are geared to teens or parents or both. We usually try to gear it to both, and so we actually did a second podcast last month on how to choose movies the whole family can enjoy and what to look for and some suggestions. So we're really excited. I was looking back through the podcast recently and just a lot of things about, we actually did a show on how to put together a graduation. We've done shows about how to stay close to the Lord in high school, in college, how to get college paid for. We did one on economics where a bunch of kids talked about economics and what they enjoyed about the class and so we do a lot, and there's a lot of shows with kids talking about real life problems. One of one of the shows was for homeschooled kids, talking to people who are suddenly being pulled out of school and they're going to be homeschooled, and they gave them tips from, their own experience of how to plug in and enjoy being homeschooled. So I love the shows, a wide variety of different things. I think my personal favorite is Don't Be a Nimrod, which is about Nimrod.
Oh, it's
and,
good. Really good.
So, but yeah, please tune in. Please tune in. It's really, we love doing the show, and we'd love to have you listen. So it's Finish Well Radio, and it's on the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.
Yes, very good. Okay, well, I'll put those links in for some of those topics you mentioned. I'll go grab those, and they'll be in the show notes page. And also, don't forget, you can listen to our broadcast on iTunes or on GooglePlay or many podcast apps, depending on the type of phone you have. Or you can listen right here on the Internet, and you can even download the audio to listen to later. So that's all available for you. So that's why we always have sponsorship audios play, so that we can bring you all of these for free. So we thank you so much for listening and all of your notes and stuff. So, and then go to iTunes and leave us a rating. I always forget to ask that, but that really does help us get found. All right, so we talked about location, and let's talk a little bit about decorations before we get to the food, because that's the one I want to talk about. It brings out my creative artsy side that I don't really do anything with. So, we're going to do another podcast on weddings on the cheap, because Meredith hosted one of the most beautiful weddings I've ever been to, and I've been to some at really exclusive country clubs and destination weddings, and some like my daughter's wedding that I paid a small fortune for. It was very beautiful, but the reception was at a hotel on the beach, so we ended up getting it for a great price, but the food was very expensive. So it was a very small wedding, but we ended up doing other stuff. But we'll talk about that at the weddings. But the reason I wanted to talk about the decorations, and I mentioned the weddings, is because Meredith did something very unique, and I basically did the same thing many years ago. And that was when we had our first graduation, which was Neil, and then Christina. I purchased some things that could be used again. And it really can be used for any party, but my graduation colors were the gold and blue, and I really liked that. And my husband's were red and gold, I think, something like that. But I liked the gold and blue, and I asked the kids, and they both thought that was fine. And so I bought a ton of things like the vinyl tablecloths. These were not disposable. They were not to be used on every table, just like the food table and like you were talking about, their little memorabilia table and things like that. And those are very easy to wipe down and fold and put away. And then also I made some party decorations, but I bought like rolls of streamers, and I was trying to think back. Neil graduated in 1999. Here we are in 2017. And Christina in 2001, and I still have the stuff, and I used it for Nick and for Anne, and still have more streamer stuff. I mean, some of the little individual cups I had to throw away. I did plaster Paris with my husband's in construction. Okay, so we have these huge nails. They're not. I don't even know what they're for. I don't think they're framing nails, but we inverted them in the cup, and so I could tie a balloon to the head of it. So just think of a little plastic, like a disposable cup that you can use for drinks. But I use the clear ones, and then I made plaster Paris, and I stuck a nail in the middle of it, and it dried, and those were my weights. And then I took the cups, and that was what broke during the years, as the plastic kind of deteriorated. But I tell you what, that plaster Paris was still hard as a rock. And I can just pop it in another cup, and then I just use crepe paper or tissue paper, and, tied the little string, and I could stick a balloon on there or a Mylar balloon, which are reusable. I don't know if you know that. If you buy Mylar balloons somewhere, you can deflate them or just buy them flat. And I was telling you before we went live, Meredith, that I have a tank of helium at my house at all times because you never know when you need a balloon. And yesterday was Samantha's birthday, my granddaughter. And so, of course, it was really easy to whip out the helium tank and put up some balloons. And then I have banners that, again, can be used year to year that say, happy graduation or congratulations, and then little things that you can stick on the wall. Again, being married to a builder, and my dad was like this. I'd always say you married your dad, but like your dad. But, I always got in trouble for putting posters on the wall and having stuff that my dad used to talk about that wouldn't come out, like that gummy stuff that would just stick. Well, now they've improved it. But so I have a staircase that goes upstairs, so I put, graduation things on the staircase because we had a home party. And it was so pretty. Like, when you walked in, and I know what you're talking about with your tablecloths and everything, Meredith, because I've been to your events, and you walk in and that whole place is just transformed. I mean, it can be, a little, room when you start, but when it's done, it just looks gorgeous, and it's very, very festive, and it's exciting, and, and those kinds of things are reusable. So, I mean, I have so much stuff back from 1999 that I still have, and I've been able to get my money's worth out of it. So you talk about graduations on the cheap. That's as cheap as you can get.
Yes, that's amazing. And just little things that you can do that are easy, like lattice. If you buy a piece of lattice at a hardware store, which isn't, that expensive, and you buy it, like maybe 7 feet, and you can put that up against the wall, and you can hang flowers from it, and you can do so much stuff to line a wall without really, and like you said, like I have an arch that I used at Kate's wedding, and then I bought one of those big plastic wrap things from Sam, and I wrapped the whole thing up tightly so no bugs would get in it. And then I packed it away in my garage because I want to keep it really nice. But things like that are really special. And one of my favorite things to do is make photo spots. And the past graduation, our last one, we also did a photo booth. But a photo spot is you just set up a place that's a nice place to take a family picture. So you make sure the walls are all clear and that anything behind it would look nice in a picture. So we've used arches before. We've put like 2 ficus trees, maybe 10 feet from each other against the blank wall, and then had balloons next to the ficus trees, happy graduation balloons. And there's enough room between the 2 ficus trees for families to go up, get a picture taken. Because, I don't know if you're like this, but if our family's all dressed up for a wedding or a graduation, I'll say, oh, we're getting a family picture. And, it's not normal that we're all dressed up at the same time. So, it's not just your own family, but other families who are coming really enjoy getting their picture. So that's really fun to do. And then another thing is a photo booth. And that is a really fun thing to do. And again, they don't have to be like a fancy booth. We had friends of ours build us a really nice photo booth for Kate's wedding. But you can set up something that is so simple. And the fun part are all the props, the funny glasses, the funny nose, the mustaches, and things like that, and hats and stuff. And the kids really enjoy taking silly pictures. So anyway, those are just some other tips for making the party look festive. And like you said, streamers are really cheap, but they look so festive. Balloons, they're not expensive, but they look so festive. And just small little touches here and there make everything look nice. If you just take time to put a centerpiece on a table, it doesn't matter if it's expensive or not. It just looks nice. And so those are all little things that you can do to make everything special. And like you, I have little things I've collected, like a little black graduation hat that's plastic and small. And you know how I love Barbies. I'm so sorry, most people don't like Barbies, but I've even dressed up my Barbies in graduation gowns. I know that's so silly. But anyway, so
I think it's
little,
cute.
little
I grew
things
up in,
that make you you.
I grew up in Canada for my fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. I was in New York, then Canada, and then we moved to Florida. So I kind of missed the whole Barbie thing. We had a Tammy, and it was funny because she was a little fatter than Barbie. I think she was more of like the every girl,
That's
physique.
cute.
Because when I got back to the States, it was like, someone gave me a Barbie, and I kind of like put them both, it was like side to side, and I'm thinking, whoa, this one like looks like a little chunked out version. I mean, she wasn't fat, but it was just I don't even know what happened to those dolls. I was never a baby doll or doll person, and my mother was, so she kept buying me all this stuff, and it's funny. And, but just whatever makes, like sitting with your teens, I love that you can do this and plan with them, and just listening to what they want. And, my kids like the youngest three. They like the small parties, and they love the family events. So that's what we focused on. And I still did the decorations, and it was amazing because for each one of my kids, someone special was in town, like a favorite aunt or cousin or somebody came that, just added to it being special. And I know going back to location, one thing I meant to say is that a lot of parents do an open house for their kids, because when it's graduation time, we get a lot of graduation invitations, and they tend to be like from a 1 to 4 type of thing. So you can go in, say congratulations, give them a card, and then leave, and go to another graduation. So that's another interesting way that you can celebrate and have that people will be coming in and out.
And that is a wonderful way, because you just have to keep the food supplied, and you have a steady stream in and out, and it means there's not like too many people in your house at once. And
right.
The one thing I would suggest if you're having a big party, and I know this from experience, is get volunteers who don't have a child graduating, who I'll usually have 2 friends and say, hey, can you keep the food on the table? And it's not really a full-time job. It's just a matter of taking a look at the table every 15 minutes, and then if something needs to be replaced, just bringing out the new platter. So that's been a real blessing for things like that. And are we allowed to talk about food yet?
Yes, we're ready to talk about food. I know, it's like my favorite part. Oh, gosh. Well, I'm a baker, so yeah, you go ahead, because I want to share my new discovery, and I love this thing. So I'll talk about it in a minute, but you go ahead. Yeah.
Well,
let's do the big picture. The big picture is we're feeding people, right? It's not just finger foods, or you can do both. I guess that's what you need to decide. Is it a meal, or is it going to be finger foods? What is the best thing? Because we've done both. Like if we've had it at the house, it's been a big meal. More like lasagna and stuff like that. But if it's been at the park, we did a lot of, like it was almost like everybody brought something, because we did it with our homeschool. We had a private school. So everyone brought something, and I think somebody actually did grill burgers.
Well, we have always done finger foods, but with a twist. We always have lots and lots of meat. One of my experiences is with dealing with homeschool dads and dealing with homeschooled boys, homeschool graduates, is food is a really big deal. For me, it's the baked goods, the desserts, but for boys, it's the food. And so we make sure that we have tons and tons and tons of meat. And so when I was part of the co-op, we had all the co-op families bring platters of meat of some kind. It could be chicken wings, it could be chicken tenders, it could be, sliced deli meat to make sandwiches, but so that there was plenty of hearty finger food, if you will, so really it would be like a meal, but it would be more simple to eat and more simple to prepare.
Right.
And then we had other people bring things like chips, side dishes, nuts, candy, things like that to spread out. At our last graduation, we had a candy bar, and that was really fun because we had different kinds of candy and in really festive little jars, and that it was beautiful. We had one table set aside as a little candy bar, and it was just a beautiful table. But we have a lot of hearty food there, and so that everybody feels like once they finish their food, like, oh wow, that was great, I feel full, I feel happy, the guys are all happy, that was good, that was worth it, and then it's time for the girls to all be happy with the dessert. So
always putting things in perspective.
And we always had really simple with the drinks. We would usually do water and a punch and then coffee, and that was it. Like, we didn't do lots of sodas or things where we just, punch bowls are wonderful because you can use the small cups, and that keeps you from going around at the end of the night and gathering cups that are half full, because most people will finish a small punch cup. So buffet works beautifully, laying the food out, and of course with buffets, that we always, if there's a lot of people, always try to make your buffet so that you can go on both sides so things move quickly. And those are just some tips. If you have a huge event, you can have one table go at a time or two tables go at a time. But for the most part, if people can move down the lines by themselves, and something that we always do in any celebration is the celebratory person gets to eat first, and that's kind of our, special thing.
Yeah, kind of like at a wedding, the bride and groom get to go up first. Yeah, and what we do with that is when we have our family gatherings is we let the older people go first, which the little kids at the beginning when we started doing that were kind of like, wait a minute, because usually everyone's like, oh, feed the kids first, but usually there's enough appetizers out and things like that where they're not so starved.
Right.
But, we did that as a matter of respect, and as our parents have gotten more elderly, sometimes they need help. And so that kind of keeps little ones from, knocking into them. And I have a high counter where I put my buffet on at home, and so the little ones can't always reach, which is kind of a good thing.
Yes, I was going to say help. That's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. But as you were talking, and I was thinking, one of the things that we've done a lot of. I'm not a big fan of pork, like I really don't like baked ham, but I like sliced ham for sandwiches. But my daughter made a pulled pork, and I am now in love with that, especially if it's done right. And so that, and she also does pulled chicken. So those are things you can prepare ahead of time. Like you can either do it in a crock pot, or you can, and then you just heat it up. Right before you serve it, you just plug in if you have the Instant Pot, which I think is hysterical. They named, pressure cooker is what it is, girls. But we call it an Instant Pot now, and that heats up very quickly too. So you can put things in and make it ahead of time. And also, we don't do the drinks. We'll do a lemonade because no one really likes punch here. So usually we have a lemonade, and I've broken two of my. In fact, I had these. One was a wedding present, and one or two I actually inherited from my mom. Are punch bowls but we had a metal scoop, and they crack over the years.
Oh,
So
yes.
yeah, so mine are all gone. So I ended up getting it's a ceramic, like an acrylic, because right now there's a lot of babies around. So
Right.
I'm not gonna, you just don't want, you want to like low budget it. And it's got a little spigot, and that too, last time we had to put a towel on the floor because I had it on a lower little table where they could reach. And, they love that little spigot thing, but it was really easy I want to say it's 2 gallons that fit in it. And you can find like huge types of things like this that, and we are spoiled because when I went to see my daughter when she moved to an apartment in Maryland for college, there is no TJ Maxx, no Ross, no Marshalls. And that's where we tend to go in and get all our stuff. Like even the jars you were talking about, I just bought these beautiful glass jars with lids for $1.99, and I bought various sizes. And my husband likes to put powdered sugar. He makes, my husband's one with the sweet tooth in the family, but he'll make a little powdered sugar glaze. I make cinnamon rolls homemade, and he'll pull them out of the freezer and put them in the oven, little toaster oven to heat up. And so he'd always take out the big powdered sugar thing. And now I've got this nice little container on the counter, and I was just thinking of your candy that you were talking about. That would be so cool. And the other thing we did was, and this was at the park, because these things are such a mess, is we did a chocolate fountain. And they're not as big as they are anymore because they are such a pain to clean. And I keep thinking of how much chocolate is wasted. They're really cool. We ended up buying one on sale because they were really expensive when they first came out. And we used that for many years until it no longer worked. But everyone loved that. You just put a bunch of fresh fruit out, and you've got, this chocolate fountain that looks beautiful, and that's really decorative. And then as far as the little thing I was going to share with you earlier, I will say this. I am a recovering, I don't do it anymore, but I can be a very impulse person buyer. Like I'll see something on TV and that will I'm like the perfect salesperson or consumer is what I'm trying to say. I will buy something that looks good. And I don't do a lot of things on TV, I've seen on TV, just because you don't know what it looks like. And now those kinds of things are available at stores. But I did buy these tips that are for cupcakes, and I don't make a lot of cupcakes. It's just easier for me to make a cake, and even with chocolate chip cookies, which is my family's favorite, I'll make a big, like my kids will ask for these for birthdays and even sports. The moms all have to make one meal for one of the teams, like twice a year. And the kids, I'll take a pizza pan, an aluminum one, and I just put the cookie dough, and you put it, you don't do it all the way to the edge, or it will, because cookies, of course, spread out. But I'll put the cookie dough and make one big cookie, and it's really fun, and you can frost it if you want, which we don't, but you can, and put, writing on it. And so I found, so that's why I do a big cookie, or I'll do a cake, but I don't ever do the tips. And so I tried it yesterday for Samantha's cupcakes for her birthday. Christina made the cupcakes and brought them, and they came out so professional and so gorgeous. I was shocked.
Oh, wow.
They were so pretty. And what we did was, I said to my daughter, I go, only we would experiment, but it was only family, and her mother-in-law came, who's like part of our family. But we did some, pink, but they were like little rosettes, and you just squeeze it and you pull, and they're like perfect little flowers. And you can decorate these cupcakes that were gorgeous. And there's about 10 different tips. So at some point we'll experiment with them. But it's, another event's coming up with Christina. It's William's First Holy Communion. So she's borrowed the tips because she said, I was going to have to go buy cupcakes, and these are so easy to do. And they really are. You have to get your frosting a little bit thicker, And I will, as a gift to all of you, post this. It's like the easiest buttercream frosting recipe. And I make this chocolate frosting. I never buy canned because this is so much better. If my kids ever have a chocolate cake out, like at an event, they're like, why bother? It's not very good. Like they'll take one bite. And this is like I got it from somewhere. I don't even remember. It might have even been on the side of a cake box, but I tweak it a little bit. And I use real butter and powdered sugar and cocoa. And, you have to, I always thought it doesn't really matter what brand you use, but sometimes it does because it can really change the flavor. So just make sure it's, it's real cocoa that you use. But you can make, chocolate frosting, and I just make the buttercream. I just don't put the chocolate in. And, I was watching my weight, so I didn't have a cupcake, but the kids all had 2 cupcakes, so I think they were really good. She makes little cupcakes, and so it's okay to say yes to 2 instead of having, how you can have the one huge cupcake.
Right.
So she makes them smaller on purpose. And she doesn't I always use the paper liner, and she doesn't. My daughter's very, very frugal. So, but we put them on 2 platters. One was a little bit elevated. It's like a glass cake platter that I have. And I put it on a square a glass platter. Again, I bought, I want to say for $4 or $5 somewhere. And I was walking down one of those at one of the discount stores at one of their aisles that was, stuff on sale. And I think it was part of a set, but it's a square pan, but it was so pretty. So I am going to be posting, I think my daughter posted some pictures on Facebook of Sam's party, but I'll have to post a picture on this post here.
You need to write a blog about this and post a lot of pictures because we'd like to see it step by step as you do the next one. So.
Yeah, because what happened is it was different colors. So we started with the pink, and then, as much as I'm like, okay, let's get the next color and have it be perfectly, green or whatever, but I added white to the pink. And then it came out, with white and pink on it. And then I did the green, and then I put a little bit of blue. So those came out, just different colors. And I think the girls were all oohing and eyeing. It was really fun. They did try to do it. It was a little bit too hard for them. It does take a little bit of a knack. You push down and pull up. But, I'll have to do that. It was really fun. But, and as far as food goes, having everybody participate is really a good idea because a lot of people are willing to bring something, and just like a big salad's not very expensive and things like that. And then the other thing we've done, and this is the last thing, is we have done an ice cream bar. So we have scoops of ice cream, and we scoop them out ahead of time, and we freeze them so that they're on a cookie sheet. And then we just take the cookie sheets out, and then we can just scoop, because it always takes so long if somebody's sitting there scooping ice cream. And then we just take the scoop out, and then give them the toppings to put on it. And that has been a really big hit. And so when you're doing this, you just start looking for sales and coupons and things like that. And it's really, really fun. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for listening. It has been a great topic to talk about with you, Meredith.
Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting, and I'm so excited for us to talk about the weddings. That's going to be awesome.
Yes, that's going to be next. All right. Thanks so much. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Vintage Homeschool Mom Show. Visit Felice at MediaAngels.com and theVintageHomeschoolMoms.com. Vintage Homeschool Moms is a production of the Ultimate Homeschool Radio Network.
I'm a publisher, and one day my daughter Christina asked me to write a novel with her. Well, that day was long ago, and that little girl is now an adult. But our novels live on. The Truth Seekers Mystery Series highlights a homeschool family, the Murphy teens, in an action-adventure novel that is sure to entertain as well as teach creation truths. To get your copy, visit our website at truthseekersmysteryseries.com.